All right, hello. Happy Thursday to everyone. Hopefully this week's been pretty well for most of you. I think it's right at 11 now. We're going to hang out just a minute or two, let these people file in. I like to use this time to make sure my voice is coming through clear. You guys hear me loud and clear. Am I too loud, too soft? So if you could, based on what you're hearing, type over there in the chat pane. Just let me know that you can hear me okay. We'll just hang out for another minute or two and we'll get started. All right, good to hear. So it looks like I'm coming through clear. It's good to have all of you in the on the webinar today. Looks like got some new faces in on this one, so it's good to Ron, Rodrigo, Randall, Melissa, Anna, Karen. Nice to see you guys. Thanks for dropping in. I think we'll go ahead and get started. So today's topic is probably one of the most misunderstood or misinterpreted items with inbound marketing, and that is SEO, search engine optimization. So today's webinar is going to tackle that topic and just really go into the fundamentals of SEO, and I'm going to keep it real basic, high level today, because there's a lot you can get into, and there's really a science to SEO that's probably not appropriate at this stage, but this is a good entry-level overview of exactly what's involved with SEO. So a couple of housekeeping items, as usual. Questions are very much welcome. So you guys should be seeing the chat pane over there somewhere on your screen. Looks like most of you have found that already, but at any time we have, so I'm Wes, by the way. I guess I should start there. I'm Wes with Brown Creative Group. Neil, who is also with our web design and inbound marketing agency, is in on the webinar, and he's going to be keeping an eye on the chat pane. So if you have questions at any time, just drop them in that chat pane, and he'll get those answered, or I will at the very end for sure. We are recording this webinar today, so I know some people couldn't make it to the live viewing of it today, so we'd like to record it. We'll post it to our blog tomorrow, and then everyone who registered should also receive an email with the recording too. So if you got to drop out early or something like that, that's okay. We'll get you the recording at some point. And we, I'm always welcome to feedback and recommendations, especially for whatever that next topic that you guys, as business owners, as marketers, maybe salespeople, whatever it is that you want to learn about in regards to anything web design or marketing related. So definitely shoot me an email personally, wes@browncreativegroup.com. I'd definitely welcome feedback and any sort of recommendations. And we also offer a completely free website and marketing assessment and consultation. So if anyone is interested to learn more about SEO and wants to take the next step after this webinar today, usually that next step is going to be just to schedule a conversation. Let's look at your website. Let's look at your marketing, and we can get into how you're ranking now and how present you are in search engines now, and set a plan in place to improve that. So at the very first comment over there in that chat pane, I put in there's a link to where you can sign up on our website for that. So if anyone wants to do that, you can do that there. All right. So what is SEO? It's just kind of one of those terms that is thrown around by, techie guys. I guess we would fall into that category of tech guys, people who are very digital. It's thrown around all the time. It's one of the biggest, maybe most underutilized marketing techniques when we're talking about online marketing. So what I wanted to do was, instead of some crazy technical definition of what it is, I just kind of wanted to come up with my own, one that I think will be best understood by someone who's not in the industry. So I came up with the practice of improving a website's ranking and visibility in search engine results. So, of course, SEO stands for search engine optimization. And truly, all SEO is about, there's a ton of stuff that goes into it. And like I said earlier, there's a science to it. But truly, all we're really doing here is improving a website's search ranking for whatever keyword phrases that they want to be found for. So there's a lot that goes into it, but overall, that's what we're talking about here. Getting a website from page 3, 4, or 5 for a certain keyword phrase up to page 1, or getting a website on the bottom of a page 1 search engine listing to the top of page 1. That's all we're talking about here, is improving your visibility in search engines. So why is this important? Like, this hasn't always been a marketing strategy and a tactic. Obviously, with the growth of the internet, I think we can all agree that the internet has seen some pretty significant growth in the last 20 years. But what that's done has changed the way consumers buy, and it has changed the entire buying process for everything, for whatever restaurant you want to eat at locally, to what car you want to buy next, to a home, to everything. So today's consumer takes to Google for, again, everything. I mean, if it's a medical diagnosis, if someone gets a rash, what do? It used to be go to your doctor, right? You call your doctor, say, I have this going on, or make an appointment. What's the first thing that you're going to do if you get some sort of rash? You're going to go to Google and you're going to check whatever pages comes up. Anything. I mean, if you're doing research about a car, a home, you start online, you start writing Google, you're going to search it. Even your most basic everyday buying decisions are likely influenced online and usually start online. So some stats for you. So 93% of online experiences start with the search engine. So that's pretty extraordinary. We're talking about above 90% all starts with the search engine. And obviously Google being the largest search engine of the kind of the 3 main players, and Yahoo, Bing, and Google, that means that 93% of people going online are starting with a Google search. Once they get there, 70% of the people are clicking organic listings. So you guys will probably be able to see my cursor on this screen. So I wanted to put this in here just to show you what it was. So I just did a Google search for Google Ads, and your Google search results page starts with usually some sort of paid advertising. This used to be a little bit more easy to differentiate from these. So these bottom three here are your organic listings. Google has kind of switched things up a little bit. These used to be in like a yellow box, and sometimes it still may be. But people just kind of know that these are ads, and hence they skip over them. They go right to those first organic listings, and that's where 70% of the clicks are made. So more than ever, being able to show up here where you don't have to pay as you would up here just to show up is crucial. I mean, if you can be in the top 3 listings for whatever keyword phrase is going to drive traffic to your website, we're talking about serious website traffic, serious leads, serious sales. It's a big deal. So like I said, it can have a huge, huge impact on website traffic. And if you've kind of the way we look at website traffic and inbound marketing in general is the more targeted website traffic you acquire, the more leads you're going to generate. And of course, with more leads, the more sales and dollars you're going to go home with. So another important thing to consider here is the first 3 listings on, or I'm sorry, the first 3 or the first page of a Google listing is where almost 90% of the people are going to click. So few people make it to that second page, and even fewer make it to that third page. So if you're not on that first page, you're missing out on serious clicks. So that should be your strategy. As a minimum, you need to make it to that first page for whatever your keyword phrases are. You should even strive for higher than that to get up into that first 3. But we know from statistics that if you're not on that first page, you're missing out. All right, so the real meat and potatoes of this webinar today is, what are the factors that cause a website to rank well in search engine listings? Well, there's a lot to that, because I think there's right at 200 different ranking factors that decide where a website will show for a certain Google search. So that's a lot to chew on, right? 200. So even with that being the case, some of those you don't have any control over, okay? Some of those are how long your domain name has been registered to you. Some you just can't help, right? Some you can help. Some matter more than others. So what I wanted to do today was keeping all those 200 in mind. And keep in mind, those 200, they come from Google themselves. They tell us exactly, and well, I shouldn't say exactly, but they tell us what we need to be doing that's going to improve our search rankings. So what I'm going to do today is to cover what we think to be the most important factors to improve your search engine rankings. And these change pretty frequently. Maybe the top 3 or 4 don't change all that often because they're pretty generic, they're pretty standard, they make sense. But there's a lot of new stuff going on with Google that we'll talk about here shortly when we get to number 4. But algorithms change all the time. All the time, Google's changing up how it's going to organize the websites on the internet. So with that said, we have these 4 to be the most important things you should be worried about and you should be focusing on to improve your search rankings. So first of all is on-page optimization. And I'm going to get into each of these specifically. This is really what this webinar is going to be about today. Second is inbound links. Third is just an overall website user experience. And then fourth is mobile friendliness. There's a lot to talk about there with that mobile friendliness here recently. So let's get into it. All right, so we're starting with on-page optimization. That's kind of a fancy term, but all we're really talking about is incorporating your keywords in the most appropriate places on any given web page. Now, if you think about what those keywords are, your keywords, and it can obviously be more than one. In fact, you probably want to look at more keyword phrases that you think people are searching for online that would lead them to your website. So let's stick with keywords right there for a second. Those can be a number of different things. And you should have a pretty wide range of keywords that you would want to rank for, right? So think about our business, Brown Creative Group, web design, inbound marketing agency. So we target web design Winston-Salem. We want to be able to rank for that. We also want to come up for inbound marketing Winston-Salem. We do lots of branding, so we want to come up with search terms related to logo design or branding in our local areas. So those are the more generic keywords that people want to rank for. And usually those are pretty high competition, right? There's a lot of agencies in town that want to rank for web design Winston-Salem. So you want to take it a step further, and you want to think about folks who are not only searching for a provider to that point. So if you think about it, someone searching for web design Winston-Salem is likely looking for an agency to build them a website. And that's important. That's huge. You've got to rank for that kind of stuff. But as we know, that's not all what people are searching for. People are just searching for more helpful information. They want to know what are some of the things that are going to help them improve their company's website. And so that's why we blog and create website pages that can target that type of information and that type of search. Because if any of you guys were in on our last webinar, which covered blogging, we know that a blog is one of the best ways to get people from search engines into your website. So think about keywords in just that, and you need to have a little bit more extensive keywords than just restaurants Winston-Salem, whatever it is. It's got to be more than that. So if you think about those keywords, and once you kind of come up with those keywords and do the research behind them, they need to be placed on several places on each and every one of your web pages. And this right here is probably the most important factor with SEO. To have these right keywords visible in these places on your web pages. So here's where they need to be. They've got to be in your page titles. They've got to be in your page headings. They've got to be in your paragraph text and just your general content. They should be in your URL. So if you do, if we're talking about, if we want to rank for a keyword that has something to do with search engine optimization, we'd likely create a page that would be browncreativegroup.com / not a bunch of letters and numbers, random stuff, but those exact keywords. And then finally, some meta information, which I'll go into in a second on this next page. So these are the 5 places that you need to be adding your keyword phrases to. All right, so there's a lot to take in on this image, but let me walk you through it. So we'll just start at the top and kind of work our way down. Oh gosh, sorry. Hold on, let me get back to it. Sorry, I went the wrong way. Neil has this magic mouse that I quite haven't gotten used to. So we start with the URL. I mentioned the URL. As you can see in this URL, this is a Wikipedia page. I'm sure everyone's seen one of these. Some URLs and some websites have their pages listed as just, again, random letters, numbers, nothing that really makes sense. In this case, Wikipedia is obviously talking about search engine optimization, and they want to rank well for this page. So they're going to add in those keywords into their URL for the page. Google, that's a factor for Google. Google keeps that in mind. Whenever Google goes out and crawls the web, they look at the URL. The first thing that was on that list was your page titles. Page title is probably the most important factor when it comes to SEO. So if you think about what your page title is, if you were to go to Google and search for something, and you'd see a page full of listings, the blue hyperlink that you would click is the page title. So that's really where Google starts whenever it's bringing back websites and listings to show. It's going to crawl the title, because if you think about what the title is, it's just really an overview of what the page is going to be about. So your title is likely the most important thing, and you can see it up here. In some cases, we build our websites in WordPress. In some cases, this can be your page title. It looks like that is not the case here, but all the page title is the name of the page. All right, so let's move our way down. We've got heading. Our heading text was in the group of places where we want our keywords to show. In this case, it happens to be right here at the top of this page, but there's several places for keywords or for heading font to be within the content of the page. It can be before a certain paragraph that's going to actually talk about search engine optimization. And within heading fonts, I did it again. Within heading fonts, there's several different headings that you can have. So in the HTML world, in the back-end coding world, there's H1 tags, there's H2 tags, H3 tags. H1 is going to be your first heading. That's going to be your largest heading, and it goes down from there. H2, your second heading, is a little smaller than your first one. Really, you want to have an H1 heading, so a big heading somewhere in the content that has the keyword that you want to rank for. Google is crawling that as well. Let's skip over here to the image. So I said the last piece, number 5 on the last page, was meta information. There's a lot to that, but I think there's really 2 main ideas when it comes to meta information. Really, meta information is behind the scenes stuff that you can't really see when you're on the page itself. But if you think about Google, immediately whenever someone types in a search into the Google search engine, immediately in a matter of milliseconds, Google searches the entire web and they bring back what it thinks to be the best results based on that search. Now, Google is a heck of a system, but even it cannot visually see images, right? So all Google knows when it comes to images like this, and all images on the web, is the text that's associated with those images. And so if you put in, with these images, a little bit of meta information, Google will find that information and improve your chances of being ranked well. So image alt tags is what that is called. And it's just, alt just really stands for some alternative text so that Google can find it. So even your images, you want them to have text associated with them. And then you get to the content. And this is the most overlooked place to add in your keywords and the keyword phrases. Really, what's most important with Google, all Google wants to do is deliver the best content to its users. And it's going to be the normal paragraph content that details the page that's going to do that. So in general, you obviously want to write your website content so that it answers your customers and your prospects' questions. You want it to be helpful, educational, entertaining, whatever it is, why someone would come to your website, you want it to be valuable to that person. But also, you want to keep the keywords in mind, right? So you want to be able to pepper in those keyword phrases as you're writing your web content. Now, be careful, okay? You can overdo this. Kind of the rule of thumb when it comes to writing copy for the web is to write for humans first, right? That's who is reading the content. And then write for Google second. So what I mean when I say overdo it is that you can overstuff a page with keywords and it will hurt you. So you don't want to make it unnatural. You want to write for the website user who comes to your site looking for information, but at the same time keep in mind that certain keyword phrases are going to be what they're looking for, and that's going to be the bridge to get them from Google into your site. So keep that in mind as you come up with these keywords and think about what are your customers or potential customers searching for online. These are kind of the places that they need to be. Those keywords need to be. Now, if you're asking, how do I get these keywords in there? That's probably a question we should address on a personal note. It's going to depend on each and every website. So we build our sites in WordPress, and that makes it easy for you to put in these keywords in these areas. If you have a website designer who maybe he just coded this HTML site and there's no real back-end website platform to edit and update content with, that would require you to speak with him or them directly to insert this stuff into your website. But it all depends on a case-by-case basis. All right, the second important ranking factor when we're talking about search engine is inbound links. And just as the last portion we talked about was called on-site optimization. This is called your off-site optimization. So this is less to do with your website itself and more to do with other websites and how people around the web interact with your own website. So an inbound link, all that means is another website who is linked to our website. So if the Brown Creative Group website gets a link from the Winston-Salem Chamber, on the Winston-Salem Chamber's website, they've included a link to the Brown Creative Group site. That's an inbound link, and that's a good thing for the Brown Creative Group website. Because think about it like this, and this is kind of how Google has somewhat explained it. So each link to a website pretty much acts as a vote for that site. Someone has said, this website is important enough to share, so it must have some good quality content. So obviously, the more quality links, emphasis there on quality, the more quality links a website has, the better Google thinks it is, and the more relevant it thinks it is for certain keyword phrases. Now, just like with your keywords and plugging them into your web pages, there's a right way to do this and there's a wrong way to do this. There's a lot of spammy. Years ago, this kind of started because it came out that this was a ranking factor for Google, and at the beginning it was the more links the better. So people would just go out and start placing their links everywhere on the web. Everywhere they could place a comment, they would put a link to their website. So like I said earlier, Google's pretty smart, and they caught on to this, and they knew that this didn't make sense, because just because someone is spamming their link all over the web doesn't mean it's a good quality site. So doing practices like that can hurt you. So it needs to be, again, very natural. There's some things you can do yourself to influence getting these inbound links, but it shouldn't be posting it everywhere on the web yourself. So inbound links falls into the off-site optimization portion of those those SEO ranking factors. Third on our list here is just your overall website experience. And this one's kind of hard to put in the form of X's and O's because it's a little bit more foggy than that. What really constitutes as a quality or a good website experience? But know this, and it's kind of bizarre to think about, but Google keeps up with what happens after a user reaches your website from their search engine. So Google knows that if someone clicks on your link from a search result and they stay there for a couple seconds and then click back and click onto another search result, Google thinks of that as your site didn't have the right content or the right information for whatever keyword phrase was searched for. And so maybe the other website that was clicked on and they stayed there for several minutes, maybe that should be ranked ahead of the previous website. So it keeps up with things like this. So just in general, you've got to keep a good quality user experience. So a couple of things that I wanted to throw out there of what that meant was short load times. You can't have your website taking a long time to load, because nothing's more frustrating whenever you can't get a website to load, because I'm an impatient person to begin with. But when it comes to web and browsing the web, we're all very, very impatient. There's thousands of more results back on that last Google search result page that will load faster if I can't get a certain site to load. So it's got to load fast. It's also got to be easy to navigate. If you're going to confuse someone once they get to your site and they can't get to the exact content or the exact page that they need, they're going to give up. Kind of goes back to being impatient. And really, more than anything, it has to provide the right content. Whatever information that that person had the intentions of searching for in the first place, whatever your site needs to make sure that it's going to answer those questions or provide that logical next step, whatever it is that they would be looking for, you want to make sure that your site has the right content to provide it. All right, so our last ranking factor here, and I know I'm getting close on time. I need to start wrapping up here. This is the last one, guys. And this is somewhat new. So back in December, I did actually it could have been January. I forget which month it was, but we're talking about web design best practices. And one of them was just so your website it needs to be mobile friendly, right? I think I threw out the stat around then that more people accessed the web from a mobile device in 2014 than they did from a traditional, desktop computer. So the mobile movement is here, and if you are not optimized for mobile, you're missing out. And it used to be that conversation was solely about the user experience of a website. Had nothing to do with your Google search rankings or your search engine rankings at all. And that is changing. So late last year, it started with these new mobile-friendly labels showing in the mobile search results. So you can tell over here, you've got the page title, in this case, the blue hyperlink, the URL. This is the meta description. And then this is the new tag that is applied to mobile-friendly search results. So that's important enough because if your search result does not have that mobile-friendly tag, and I'm browsing from a mobile device, I'm certainly going to skip over that one and choose one that is mobile-friendly. So before I move on, what exactly does mobile-friendly mean in this case from a user experience standpoint? It's got to mean there's no Flash software. Flash is just a way to, it's just kind of a way to have interaction on your site and movement. It's very much outdated now, but it still pops up on occasion. It needs to be, your text needs to be easily readable without having to zoom around on a page and go left to right. But more than anything, your content needs to be resized so that it's going to fit the screen of that user. We call that responsive design. So what I've talked about at this point has been strictly user experience. The new news and headline and something that's kind of going viral here lately in the marketing world is the announcement that on April 21st, so we're less than a month away from this, Google will begin using mobile compatibility and mobile friendliness as a ranking factor. So it used to be that Google obviously wants the site to have a good mobile experience, but it wasn't going to hurt you if your site did not in the form of its search rankings. Now that is changing. So it's what's being called the mobile apocalypse, hence the image here. We wrote a blog post about it earlier this week. It's a big deal in the digital and online marketing world. So now Google is going to decrease your search rankings if you do not have a mobile optimized and a mobile friendly site. Meaning that there's going to be a lot of change in Google search results over the next couple of months. It's going to be a lot of movement, we foresee. Now, this is scary to some people, but this is actually a phenomenal opportunity. So maybe you have some websites that have been around a long time that are ranking better than yours. If you were to have a good optimized site that's going to be mobile compatible and mobile friendly, and these people do not, that will hurt their listings. And so that gives you the opportunity to place them or move up your rankings. So this is the big thing to keep an eye on here, guys. How exactly is this new algorithm update from Google that really focuses on mobile? How is that going to change listings? So you can Google, if you're curious to see if your website is mobile friendly, you can absolutely type into Google Google mobile friendly, and it'll likely be the first listing that comes up. And you can type in your URL, and it's going to tell you if it's friendly. That's great. You're probably safe from a search engine standpoint, and that doesn't mean you have a great user experience. That's kind of more of a human eye. But this is absolutely a big deal, and you'll likely hear about it in the coming months and what exactly this means for brands who need to be found online. So guys, as a review, real quick, let's go back through these four, because these are the four factors that that we need to be ranking for. And I'm well over and on time. I'm going to wrap up. So you've got your on-page optimization, where you got to be ranking for your keywords. You've got your inbound links. How many websites, how many quality websites are linking to yours? The overall user experience and how a user will feel about your website. And then, of course, mobile friendliness. All right, guys, with that, I'm going to open it up to questions. Got that chat pane. I see Ed had a question that Neil has jumped on. Ed Dean asked about the bounce rate. What is a bounce rate? And your bounce rate is the percentage of people to visit your site but then navigate away without viewing or clicking on another page. So your bounce rate is what I was talking about earlier with the overall user experience. So if you have a high bounce rate, that likely means your user experience isn't all that great. Someone didn't find the information they were looking for, or your site didn't load fast enough, or navigation just kind of confused them and they gave up. That's what we're talking about with bounce rate. So again, guys, if you have any questions, definitely type them into that chat pane over there. That'll kind of conclude this webinar today. Keep in mind, we have a link over there for a free website marketing assessment. If anyone's interested in that, just go over there, fill out that short form. We'll follow up from there and just start the conversation and check on your online presence, see how it's doing. But I really appreciate everyone being on board today. Again, I'm going to hang around in the chat pane, answer some questions, and anything else you can email me, wes@browncreativegroup.com, and you guys should receive the recorded webinar here later on today. So again, thanks everyone for coming, and I'll be in the chat pane.